Good afternoon. We're in capital of Estonia, Tallinn, here in Swiss Hotel. My name is Marat Kasparov and I'm your host today. As a venue of Stockfanatt.com English version launch, it's my pleasure to invite our first guest, the CEO of Change Invest, crypto broker, Mr. Kristjan Kangro.
I'm glad to be on the show.
Thanks for coming. So, can we be honest, straightforward and interesting?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
Let's start with some quick couple of questions. Let's start. How old are you, sir?
28.
Wife or kids?
No wife, no kids yet. Only kid is Change at this point.
Interesting. Religion? Religious?
I don't talk politics or religion here, so
Why not? Is it
I tolerate all religions.
fully, yeah? So, Mr. Kangro, who you want to be like? One dead person and one alive?
Well, I think like one of the reasons why I actually started Change was the guys who started Skype were big role models for me. So I think I would like to leave as big of an impact as the founders of Skype left on the road.
Which is what?
Which is changing hundreds of millions of lives. So what Skype did in communication, we try to do the same in finance.
Okay, and some dead person, just to spice it up?
I think I'll probably go with Jobs. Maybe it's cliche, but I think like what he did for technology has really inspired me.
I got you. Sir, I rather think that everybody can describe itself the best. Can you briefly describe yourself, as you know yourself the best?
Well, I'm Estonian first and foremost. I came from a little village called Ambla in the center of Estonia. There were basically 50 people living there. I always kind of like had an inspiration to go outside and kind of create something big for the world. And from there I went to basically study in Netherlands, and I did my first tech company there, failed. So obviously this is one of the trends what I have. I basically failed a lot, but also learned, and I think that has been a big part of my story.
Well, failing is not too bad, thanks. Also, a question. Let's start from the beginning. October 2016, Change made an ICO raising $17.5 million US. Afterwards, you moved headquarters to Estonia, and then you first started to make a new era bank, and then you moved to cryptocurrency broker. Can you follow up this trend and what's happening about this course?
So you mean why basically I moved to Singapore and then back to Estonia?
Why did you change the course also?
Okay, so I think Change has always been about borderless financial system. So if you think of Nike shoes, everywhere around the world you can get Nike shoes, whether you're in Afghanistan, Estonia, Singapore, but you cannot get the financial services equivalent of Nike shoes. So for example, like the financial services in Estonia, Singapore, or Afghanistan are completely different. So, I mean, Change has always been about like kind of breaching this gap, really creating a borderless financial system. And I think in 2016, we found out that cryptocurrencies can actually kind of provide this value to the world. So can you imagine where we all would have the same financial system, so you can get actually the Nike shoe equivalent to financial services?
So basically saying that the currencies that we have at the moment will kind of be less valuable and disappear, and we have a basic one currency, which is via Bitcoin or other coin?
I think it's not only about currency. So for example, there is Bitcoin and Litecoin what are about like transferring value cheaply, but it's also about like financial services. So on cryptocurrency, you can take loans from anywhere around the world. You can take insurance from anywhere around the world. So it's also about not only about free movement of money, but it's also about free movement of service. So why cannot you take, for example, investment service or insurance service from Singapore? Like you probably use Estonian bank, right? Why do you only use Estonian bank? Probably Estonians are not best at every banking service in the world. So yeah, it's about like the moving money freely, but it's also about moving services freely. And that is what Change is doing today.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Change. How many workers does the Change group have?
Change has 50 people, 50 team members working for our mission. And we have offices in Tallinn, in Amsterdam, and we're opening one in Southeast Asia, but I wouldn't just say where exactly there.
I got you. What's the difference between CEO Kristjan Kangro and regular Kristjan Kangro?
I think it's pretty much the same guy. I mean, the competitive person I am at my basically free time, doing a lot of sports, the same kind of like translates also to the CEO of Kristjan Kangro. But obviously it's not about only me. I think Change is so much more than me as a person. We have 50 super talented and smart people working on this mission to build a borderless financial system in the world.
But somebody's less talented, somebody's more talented. Ain't that true?
Well, indeed, but I think it's like I think the success of change has really come from the fact that we have got really the best people to kind of build this business. I think like every time I'm humbled when I go to the office and see the talent what we have.
I guess. Change co-founder is also active in the company. His name is Mr. Gustav Liblik. Why we never hear about him?
I think Gustav actually is doing a lot of presentations, and I mean Gustav is really the product visionary in our company.
He's also co-founder, right?
We started Change with Gustav together in Singapore, and he definitely plays a really big role at the company. And I mean, he's the product visionary. When I'm more about like giving the tools to all the team members to build this unicorn, then Gustav is really the visionary, and he kind of has these vision glasses on and kind of sees where the finance is going to be in 5 years.
Is Gustav shy, or he doesn't want to be in front line?
I don't think he's shy. I think he's really, really busy in building the best possible basically product for the Europeans, and building the product with the scale what we're aiming to do. It's really, really difficult. So I think he's just extremely overwhelmed.
And he also has a big stake also in the company as a co-founder. Is that correct?
Every team member of Change has equity in the company, and I mean that's also been one of the successes. Like one of the reasons why we have been successful is basically everybody has a skin in the game.
So who has more skin in the game, therefore?
I think everybody of our team members have skin in the game. Obviously, some people joined earlier, some people joined later. But yeah, I think one of the successes of Change has been giving equity early on, and that's why we have the talent, what we have in our office.
So basically, if I calculate, so everybody gets rich if a Change group is a successful company.
I think being in the crypto space for that long, I think money is not the primary driver why we're doing this. I think we really tried to build a big impact in the world. And just talking about myself as well, when I went to study in Netherlands, everybody was telling me about Skype. You know, like I meet this guy is talking about Skype, another guy, and thought like, how big of an impact did these guys leave on the world? And I think change is also about leaving impact, changing hundreds of millions of lives. And for me, money comes later as a secondary consideration.
Excuse me, but don't tell me that you're making it without thinking about the money, or you're trying to changing the world. As almost every startup is trying to change the world using the greatest tools of capitalism, who has destroyed our planet, and saying they're changing the world by cashing in.
First of all, that's why we call the company Change. So because that's the primary motivation why we're doing this. Obviously, I would be doing an NGO if the capitalist side wouldn't be there. But I think like in order to really change hundreds of millions of lives, you need to actually build a capitalist business.
Yeah, but making Bitcoin wallets doesn't change anybody's life, or does it?
I think when we give more people access to cryptocurrencies, in the end, that would be a 10x innovation to the financial world.
What's the difference if I have Venezuela money or your cryptos? It's all the same. Doesn't change any way the world, or make it safer environmentally, or I just.
Well, cryptocurrencies will allow to get the Nike shoe equivalent of all the financial services in the world. So, like what cryptocurrency does, it does the same for finance what the internet used to do for communication. So I think like the example what people are making is like. Blockchain and cryptocurrencies are doing the same for finance, what email was doing for post offices.
I got you, but that makes sense. Then we can talk quite easily if you tell this way around. Thanks, Sam. Let's talk a little bit about the Coinbase IPO that went public last week. What impact does it have on Change Group and the industry itself?
I mean, Coinbase IPO is really great news for Change because it really validates the space. I mean, now one of the crypto companies in one of the highest, basically, regulated exchanges in the world. And we can also see that from the price of Change, like how this has positively impacted our price, for example. But to talk about the mission of Coinbase, it is somewhat similar to Change. Like they tried to create an open financial system. We tried to create the borderless financial system. I mean, it's the same thing, and we're using the same tools as well. We're both using blockchain technology to kind of create this new world.
Are you competitors or have different roads? What's the difference, basically, for regular people to understand?
I think Coinbase and Change are both building cars, whereas the financial industry right now is still trying to create a faster horse. Okay. So I think they're definitely our kind of a partner in arms, trying to create this 10x better financial system, what is without borders.
Cryptocurrencies have quite bad reputation through VC, starting from the beginning until now. Can you just follow us through what will happen to reputation of crypto?
Well, nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball. But what I can tell you is that the internet also started off with all the vice sites, like you can buy all kind of like negative things on the internet, but then it kind of evolved to become the internet what it is today. I think with cryptocurrencies it's the same thing. It attracted the wrong crowd in the beginning, but I think the legitimacy what it has today is uncountered. For example, if you take Coinbase listing, I mean, that's just a perfect example how this industry is being legitimized.
Is it what's regulatory risk for you, because this industry is quite unregulated? So what's regulatory risk basically for change?
Actually, this is not true, it's unregulated. In Europe, the crypto is regulated. For example, there's a crypto license in Estonia, and all of the European countries need to follow European directive on this. Also, for change, we're right now in the process of merging with the investment firm, regulated investment firm in the Netherlands. So we are basically trying to be the white knight of cryptocurrency. We're trying to really be in the forefront of regulation.
But basically what I'm trying to tell you that governments are not very happy with cryptocurrencies as a development. Basically, can they slash big taxes or regulate in some way the usage of cryptos for the future?
Well, I wouldn't say they're negative towards crypto if, for example, European Union is planning to do their own euro cryptocurrency. China already did a cryptocurrency for their nation, so I wouldn't say they're negative if they're actually creating their own.
So basically what you're telling me that, let's say, digital yen or digital euro will be a competition with Bitcoin. How does it work? Is it this best way around?
I wouldn't say it's a competition. I think Bitcoin today is like digital gold. So this is for holding value, whereas the digital euro is going to be much more transactional in its nature.
So basically, in future, is it possible that, say, I will pay with Bitcoins or pay with any other derivatives that are connected to blockchain technology or any Bitcoins technology?
I think in the future, like the humanity will have one currency. Not sure what it's going to be about Bitcoin per se, but we're going to have one currency and we're going to have one services marketplace where you as an Estonian can buy insurance from Brazil, you can take loans from Indonesia, and you can send money almost for free really quickly anywhere around the world.
But I can do the same with the credit card. Just go to the Brazil insurance company and pay with my credit card. What's the difference?
You cannot take do you know any Estonians who are taking basically a home mortgage from outside of Estonia?
Yeah, but if I go to Brazilian insurance company and I think I pay with the Brazil real, I think I can pay with my credit card.
I mean, you can pay with a credit card, but it's about like sending money freely and really fast around the world. Like if you need to send money to a friend, for example, in Brazil, like how would you do it? Like quickly, right away, if you want to do it?
I would use probably Western Union or some other my local bank and transfer it.
Exactly. So if you use Western Union, you might pay like 5% for that. If you use your bank, then you need to like fill in all of these details. They will take 3 days to actually transfer it. They take you like 50 euros for the transfer. With cryptos, I can send money to anywhere around the world today. But even further, there is this new phenomenon called DeFi. So now you can also take a loan from a Brazilian in 5 seconds. So this is what crypto is all about. It's about creating a borderless financial system where you can have the Nike shoes of the financial services everywhere around the world.
Let's go through your Q1 results that you just recently reported. So correct me if I'm wrong. Product revenue over 2 million, verified users over 70K. So how have been you growing? Can you comment on that?
It was a big surprise for all of us. We had 40,000 customers in the first 4 years of the company's operation, and we grew 75% on top of this in the first 3 months of 2021. So obviously it got us off guard, and it was a big surprise.
Excuse me. How is this possible? That's happening. Last year was the same. So crypto is growing, Bitcoin price is growing, industry is growing on a huge pace. How was it a surprise for you?
Well, if your entire customer base grows 30% in 1 month, like this is something what you normally don't plan for. We might need to plan for this in the future, but it was a surprise. So in 1 month in January, we got 13,000 new customers. So it's 1% of Estonian population. So in 1 month. In order to counter this, what we did is really focus on automation, hired many more people in our team to actually provide the service quality what our customers are used to.
Kristjan, was this huge quarter bit one-time event or new normality in this industry or for yourself?
Well, change has actually grown many X's throughout the years. So I think like why we are getting a lot of media attention now is because these numbers are getting really big as a total. For example, last year we grew our volume from 7 million to 120 million in 1 year. So that's even more in terms of percentage change than we have been growing this year. So this is not a one-time event. Obviously, when the crypto industry will expand, the lives we can impact is tens of millions, not the 70,000 what we have impacted so far.
Kristjan, how this growth had affected your company in general?
Well, it has been a really difficult couple of months, but I think we stuck together as a team and we managed to overcome it. Obviously, when your user base grows 30% in a month, there is going to be some added pressure, and some of the support agents did work 24/7. But yeah, hopefully now we have automated processes enough, so we're not going to be facing this kind of difficulties anymore.
Okay, I got you. After the huge beat of Q1, people are quite interested what's going to be with Q2. So what's the trends for Q2?
We see the growth continuing.
At the same pace?
Well, you will find out in July when we actually publish the results. But I can tell you it wasn't basically one bump. We have been growing fast afterwards as well. But obviously we'll publish the results after the quarter ends. Obviously the volatility has been lower, but we don't see the kind of like a decrease in revenue from that.
Well, how do you say volatility has been lower when you have Coinbase action that came late April? You have a little bit of a Bitcoin meltdown. Can you say the volatility has been less than usual?
I mean, January and February was the highest volatility period in crypto for a long time.
So basically what you're saying, the Coinbase action and a small meltdown of Bitcoin didn't bring any volatility back?
There was volatility, but just in January and February, the volatility was much higher. Actually, one of the main challenges as our company is that we're right now really in the mercy of crypto volatility, and that is one of the reasons why we've added many other assets to our product set. So for example, now you can invest in Tesla, SP500, gold, and we are going to bring many other assets in the future as well.
What's the biggest markets for Change Group?
It's Estonia.
What's percentage-wise? Can you tell me?
We don't publish those, but I can tell you there are 5 main markets where we are really big. One is Finland, Estonia, Poland, Spain, and Italy.
So basically Estonia is the biggest?
Estonia is the biggest.
Can you repeat those markets by size? Which has the biggest percentage? Is that possible?
I think the biggest is Estonia, and the 4 other countries what I mentioned, they're coming up next pretty close.
When will be Estonia not the first one?
Hopefully in the future. I mean, we already see...
Near term, because that's a big development if Estonia is not the biggest market. When can this development occur?
I wouldn't make any predictions because I don't have a crystal ball.
Yeah,
but what I can tell you, Estonian market is super small, and the change was always about changing hundreds of millions of lives. And in Estonia, notably, it's 1 million people. So we need to go outside, and we already see many other countries growing much faster than Estonia.
What's the new markets that you will enter?
Right now, we're trying to dominate the European Union, but we are opening an office in Southeast Asia. So that's going to be a really exciting news coming up soon.
You tell it dominating, but the word usage dominating is not suitable referring to your situation in European Union with only 72,000 verified users. Is this domination?
Well, if you look at the growth pace, what we have, then we do try to reach tens of millions of users. But I do agree that dominating is not the best word. It's actually about changing people's lives, really making an impact. And yeah, our aim is to reach tens of millions in the future.
After your Q1 report, it seems to be that your 2021 full year guidance is too conservative. When you will update the future guidance?
We will update this in the next quarters. Once we are completely sure that we are going to basically, let's say, grossly exceed the current estimate. So I think like our company, what we try to do, we try to always overachieve. We don't want to give like really high projections and then under-deliver. So it's all only about overachieving.
Does Change Platform have any changes occurring in the second part of the year or any new instruments?
We are constantly updating our community, and I think there are a couple of product features what we have announced. One is we are building a way to spend assets directly with the Visa card. We are adding stocks in the future, and we're allowing all of the CNG holders to become shareholders in the company.
Change is also listed on alternative stock exchange Thunderbeam. So you started in October from market cap of 23 million. Now, half a year later, you're almost 300 million. Isn't it that Change is getting too big for this alternative stock exchange called Thunderbeam?
First of all, big thanks to all our investors. It's really amazing to see this growth. I think it's 1,000%, if I'm not wrong. I don't think we're too big for this.
Excuse me. How can you say that when Change Group is 70% of the index? Ain't it a little bit of a problem?
So what if Change would be 90% of the index? Why would it be a problem?
Then the index doesn't count, I think. Or the alternative stock exchange has to do something to bring some other players who will make index less dependent on Change.
Well, there are some really cool companies on Thunderbeam like Ampler and for example, Silen. I'm sure they will grow as well. And soon we're going to be much smaller percentage of the index.
What's your comment on Thunderbeam as alternative stock exchange? What does it give to our society or Estonian population?
I personally love Thunderbeam. I think like it solves a really big problem in this kind of a startup world. Normally, it's very hard to raise money for small and starting startups. For example, Thunderbeam allows that. You have an idea to, I don't know, create a new app, you raise 100 grand there. And I think it's really amazing because raising money in VC is really hard for some people. And so yeah, I think it solves a big problem. I like what they've done. The platform is amazing. I love the community, what they've created. So I'm a big fan.
Isn't it like retails come in? So basically, they think they cut the middleman a little bit. So VCs are a little bit cut off. And so retail users, as me and somebody else, anybody at home, can also invest without VCs. Is it a problem for industry, cutting VCs?
I'm not sure what is a problem. Actually, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to change to be community-driven from the start. I actually worked in Singapore in a venture capital fund, and we made massive returns to our really wealthy investors. So when I started Change, I wanted to create an opportunity for retail investors to be part of investing in a startup. And luckily, all of the investors who invested in 2017 have made a return to this point. So this is actually one of the reasons why I started. I think VC industry has a really high barrier to entry. Sometimes you need to invest minimum 100 grand or like €250,000. So yeah, providing this opportunity to retail investors is really important in my mind.
Will VCs take part also in Change investing some days later?
Well, they can, but they're going to be on the equal playing field with all the retail investors.
But that's not the way VCs play, don't they?
Well, we are one of the leading crypto brokerages in this region, and we have been totally funded by retail so far. So maybe we can go on like this.
Estonia has the most unicorns per population in European Union. So what's the future for Estonia as a technology country?
I think Estonian future is so bright, you need to wear sunglasses. Because really, I think really the talent what we have here in Estonia is amazing. I think when Estonia had this kind of a IT revolution with Lennart Meri, this really has helped to kind of like create this kind of entrepreneurial culture as well. So I'm sure we're gonna be leading this startups per capita really soon.
Okay. But if we are the most unicorns per population, then again, why are we so cheap regards PE multiples? So if you compare to rest of the world, so Estonia still starts off quite cheap, but PE multiples are quite low. How is this possible?
But based on what do you think that we are low in PE multiples?
Based on the rest of the world. If you compare our companies, which are kind of international, which multiple percentage they trade or get financed. If you compare to the rest of the world, whether it be European Union, USA or China, it's some other financials, completely different picture.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer this because, for example, if you take TransferWise, for example, or Wise, they're doing basically public listing soon. They're one of the most valued fintech companies in Europe at this point.
Really? But Wise is like, still on local market, Estonian market. When the multiples are sometimes, companies are growing 100% by quarter or year over year, and still multiples of 4 or 5 multiple PE, which is impossible in some other big developing countries.
Well, in that case, I guess we have a room to grow as a nation or a startup nation. But I'm sure we will kind of like reach the level of the remainder of the world as well.
Also interesting for me, Change as a company is very volatile, the price. And a lot of questions, how should the metric change? Value, do we have any metrics that we should watch?
I think when Coinbase came to the market, they are tracking some really specific things, what Change is publishing as well. So we are publishing, for example, trading volume. Just as in news, we just reached 500 million euros lifetime trading volume. 500 million euros, so that's a pretty big amount already. Coinbase is also publishing this. We are also publishing.
Okay, excuse me. If it's 500 million, how should I calculate the market cap so people know the metrics? So it's easy if you do, for example, sales all iPhones, total sales of all products. We have a multiplier price. We can get a little bit of value. We can calculate our future growth. How can we? Which metrics should be looked at in crypto or in change?
Well, product revenue, verified customers, volume. Comparing this to the stock price could be a good way to go.
What's the multiples in this industry? How can we calculate? If, for example, what does change have to do to become unicorn? Do we have any metrics or specialties so investors can rely on?
Yes. For example, one of the things what you can measure is product revenue compared to valuation. For example, Robinhood, one of the biggest brokerages in US, they became a unicorn when their annual revenue was 220 million euros.
Annual or product? Which one?
Annual. I mean, I'm saying it's the same thing normally. So the product revenue is 20 million. Then, for example, Robinhood in US was $1 billion company.
So what you're telling me, when you make 20 million product revenue, you, regards on history with Robinhood, you become a unicorn.
No, I said Robinhood became a unicorn when they had 20 million product revenue per year. I mean, I think our community and our investors will decide when we will become a unicorn.
So you're not sure if it applies to Change Group, the same valuation specifics?
Well, I think every company is different. And I think there are companies which you can choose. For example, Coinbase and Robinhood, where you can benchmark. But I think every company is different. Every company has a different mission. Our mission is to create the borderless financial system. And I think when our investors will see that we're getting closer to this mission, I think the value and the market cap will kind of follow.
Usually American US stocks or companies are more expensive than European Union ones. Ain't that correct?
This is correct, especially in Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So maybe we need a little bit more. Who knows? Kristjan, can you tell me what's the end game for change?
Well, hopefully we have changed tens of millions of lives, number one.
Save?
We have changed tens of millions of lives. Hopefully we have made a nice return for our investors while doing this. And we really left a dent in the world. I think that's the end game.
What's the end game for you?
Well, I'm going to do my job as long as I'm the most suitable person. And I think right now I am the most suitable person. At some point, maybe there's going to be somebody else who can do my job even better.
So do you think that means you think you're a good CEO?
I don't think I should be the one to tell that. I think, first of all, change is not about one person. It's about the entire team of people working really hard to make our vision a reality. I wouldn't comment how good of a CEO I am. I think the investors will vote with their money.
Okay, but for example, when the change journey finishes, what would you be doing next?
I think my very big passion is human-computer interface.
So what does that mean? Can you speak in a little bit more humanity language?
Yes. So the technology is at the point where you can actually change the way how computers and humans interact. So whereas right now you need to use a computer or a phone, in theory you can also actually with your mind type on a computer. With the mind you can Google. And actually Musk is doing this computer human interface, and I think that's my second biggest passion.
Well, that's difficult for me to understand at this moment at least. But if there was no change and this successful story, what would you be doing?
I think if there's no startups at all, then...
No. There are startups. There's no change. What would you be doing? There are startups. There's no change. What would you be doing?
Well, right now, I would say that blockchain is my big passion, but let's imagine it's not blockchain. I think then the second biggest passion what I have is human-computer interface. But let's imagine this is not also on the table. I think then I would be just investing in startups and helping small teams to create big impact in the world.
But if you had no money investing in startups, what would you be doing then?
Well, you can also work in a VC company like I did in Singapore.
Okay, I got you. Question, how many friends do you have?
Well, I'm not counting, but I do have some of my best friends from the high school time. And they're also tech entrepreneurs. I wouldn't say I have a lot of friends, but I have a few really good friends. If,
for example, if a friend calls you at 3:30 a.m., would you be there for him?
Of course.
But another question, will they call you?
They do. That's what I was saying. I think I have some really good friends from high school, and we have kind of really created this really strong bond between us. We have all basically traveled in different countries. For example, one of my best friends is doing his PhD in Australia right now, and the second best friend is in Singapore still. So we are super cognizant that you need to create this relationship super strong. And we are calling each other all the time. And that's a good question because they're in different time zones. So we need to call each other
When
in.
talking about PhD, what do you think, how much education helps? Because I think education does not help a lot to be a successful CEO. What's your opinion on education via converting it into success?
Yes, I don't think the theory which you get in university will be a major determinant of your success. But I do think, for example, as an Estonian, if you go to study in Netherlands, in Singapore, in US, wherever, I think this really broadens your horizon. It gives you this kind of a new experience in a new country. And I think like this really shapes your character. So I think education, by definition, the theory, I don't see a lot of value in this, besides the societal pressure to get the degree and show the paper. But I think the kind of like the process of going to another country, meeting completely new people, I think that is really important.
Do you have yourself a diploma?
I do, yeah.
How does your popularity that has grown affect your everyday life?
I wouldn't say we're super popular yet.
No, but basically in Estonia, let's say on common grounds in Estonia, how does it affect your everyday life? If it doesn't.
You know, Tallinna Sadam has like 10,000 shareholders, and Change has like, I think 7,000 or 8,000 contributors or backers. And sometimes people do come and say, I'm a CNG investor, or I own your share on Thunderbeam. And they also have a lot of good ideas how to make our product even better. So I definitely enjoy that. And actually pretty often people come and say they are investors and they made a nice return with us. So this is really cool to see.
Does your girlfriend get jealous because due to his intention, girls know how to account also?
No, I think we have a really trusting and loving relationship with Nastya.
Anastasia, right?
Yes.
What's her nationality?
She's Estonian, but she has Russian and Georgian roots as well.
How can she be Estonian if she has Russian, Georgian? It's like the same. I cannot tell that I'm Estonian. I'm Armenian. How can you tell that Anastasia, which is not, by far not Estonian name, can be called Estonian, being Georgian and Russian?
Well, she has an Estonian passport, and obviously, like in Estonia, there's a lot of different cultures who live here, and I'm super tolerant in all of them, and I actually appreciate the richness of regions of culture in Estonia. So.
Well, I don't agree on that she's Estonian, but she has cultural origin from Georgia and Russian. But you can call her maybe Nigerian also, basically, if you feel Nigerian.
Well, I think if you kind of track down the generations, then I think all of the people in this room are from a dozen different countries. But I guess it really kind of like depends how they feel, what nation they feel they're from. But I mean, yeah, I don't have like a strong opinion on that.
Does she make a budget, how to spend your money?
No, I think we're rather humble people.
How do you spend your free time then?
Well, I do a lot of sport.
Which one?
I play tennis, I play squash, I go to gym sometimes, obviously it's not showing all the time. And also I play golf.
Totally agree on that. What are the most important persons that you follow in public sector?
In Estonia, I follow Jaan Tallinn. I think he's doing great work at AI.
Who is he?
Jaan Tallinn was the founder of Skype. I also follow some of the composers just to kind of follow their journey. I mean, Estonian
music composers?
Yes, for example, like Arvo Pärt is the most listened music composer who's still living in the world today. So I wouldn't say I'm a massive like music, expert, but I would like to follow the journey.
What does it mean? So you don't listen to his music?
No, I listen, but in general, like how from Estonia came somebody who has left such a big impact on the world. So I'm just following like what he's doing. Obviously, Jaan Tallinn as well, from ex-founder of Skype. Also some athletes, because like I'm really like I like this competitiveness. I like people from this small country are going to places, going to change the world, and obviously like athletes are the kind of like also like a good example of this. Whether they're like snowboarders or tennis players.
Do you think Trump was a good president?
Well, I think the world can judge that. I don't have a strong view on that.
Do you think now Biden is better, like in politics view and also economic-wise? Well, let's ask like that. Which one, economic-wise, is smarter for the world, in your view?
Well, what I can say as one of the co-founders of the crypto startup is obviously the amount of money what the US is printing into the world is crazy. Like I just cannot imagine how so many people are trusting a financial system where somebody just prints endless amounts of money. And I think, obviously I'm talking about US dollar, and I mean this is the exact reason why the Bitcoin rally has been so great. We need to find a better system, a system where basically the currency is not controlled by governments or big corporations. We need to create a currency for the world, for the people, And I think Bitcoin is a good way to do it, and that's why I'm doing change as well.
So government actions via financial sector is untrustable, or it's unlegit, or what you're telling me?
I'm telling you that I think we should really think twice whether there is value in a fiat currency where
Fiat is what?
Fiat is basically, traditional currency like US dollar and euro. We should really think twice whether there's value there when we're just uncontrollably printing it into the world. If we're printing more money, there should be inflation. Why there is no inflation?
I have a thesis that if there's no inflation because richer get richer and they're buying luxury goods, which don't affect inflation. Inflation is affected by food and basic usage, which and this sector, let's say, less wealthy people don't get any richness. That's why there's no inflation.
You're exactly right. Why there's no inflation is because the real incomes of people, of really like average people on the street, is not rising. If they're, let's say they would have more money because of the money printing, then the prices would go up. You're exactly right. I subscribe to this point of view, and we need to change the system, and the cryptocurrencies are the answer.
But cryptocurrency is the answer, but cryptos, I think, have also not making less wealthy people richer, they're making rich people again richer. It's the same, we're going the same way around once again.
Well, that's why change is there. You can go download our application. In 15 minutes, you can use 10 euros to buy Bitcoin. We are the gateway to kind of allow normal people on the street to actually get part of this revolution.
But still, I think the industry is still really wealthy oriented, cryptocurrency in general.
No, I do agree. I think cryptocurrencies have two phases. They have the investment phase and they have the utility phase, just like internet. Remember like the dot-com bubble in 1999?
I was too young.
You were too young. I was too young as well. But back then, you had a bets.com domain, and the company was worth 100 million right away. You went to Silicon Valley with a A4 investment proposition, you get 10 million right away to kind of be invested in the internet companies. Then in the beginning of 2000s, it crashed. And then 2004 and 2007, really innovation came out from this internet revolution. For example, like Facebook's, Google's, Amazon's, and so on. It's the same in cryptos. Right now, we're transitioning from the investment phase of crypto to the utility phase. The investment phase is, hey, you think US dollar is losing value? Why don't you invest 10 euros into Bitcoin? But the utility phase, that is the DeFi, that is the borderless financial system, sending money around the world for free and also getting services around the world, wherever you are. So that is, right now we are in the position where we're going from the investment phase to the utility phase in crypto, and it's really, really exciting.
How do you enjoy your free time? Do you like to party, as they say?
I wouldn't say I'm the best dancer or really like partying too hard. I think doing a startup is a full-time job, and
but weekends are free.
Well. Especially not when you're in change in the first 3 months of this year. It has been a really crazy journey. And I think a lot of people have put a lot of time in building this company and making this a success. And when user base grows 30% in 1 month, you can just imagine that the weekend is not really for free time.
So basically, the change has grown almost 2,000% in a year. That makes you a little bit richer or even rich. Based on Estonia, you can tell that based on market cap, you're rich. That's why what do you like spending money? And how do you spend it?
I mean, Change mostly spends its money on product development.
But I'm asking you, as a CEO, but just a regular person, what do you do and how do you spend your money?
Well, I'm not a super materialistic person myself. I mean, you gave me with a car, I don't have a car. I'm living change.
Do you have a license? Do you have a driving license?
I have a driving license, but I don't have a car. I'm not a materialistic person in this regard. I think most of my life is really focusing on basically building impact in the world with change. And this is really where my time is going to, in addition to my family and friends.
So you don't enjoy luxury, expensive hotels, etc., etc., etc.?
Well, let's say this kind of hotel room I definitely haven't spent my night in.
You haven't?
No.
Okay, I got you. Which countries do you like to visit the most?
Well, I like Singapore. I like Russia.
You've been to Russia?
Well, yeah. Actually, I spent my summer when I was 16 in Moscow in a Russian language camp.
But that's 10 years ago.
I know, no, but I mean, that was the first time. But I've been to St. Petersburg. My dad used to go to university in St. Petersburg. I love the culture. I mean, for me, St. Petersburg, for example, is the equivalent of Paris. and it's so close. And I think a lot of Estonians are not really understanding the value.
Do you speak Russian?
Конечно.
That has money and you earned or approximate that you have changed the opinion towards you, so people like you more now. Do you feel the difference? Which, if you say no, I don't believe in that.
Well, then you can't believe me because obviously I haven't personally thought about it, like how this impacts the perception. But I also wouldn't say that as a tech entrepreneur that we're super rich. I think yeah.
So we're getting more attention now, have more friends, more people basically, I think, would make sense, want to communicate with you. When we did not have this so-called tech wealth, they were not around.
First of all, I wouldn't say me or some of the other team members are super wealthy. I think I still have my best friends from high school, and I still have super good relationships with my family. I personally don't see a big impact from me deriving from the fact that change is mediocrely successful. I wouldn't even say we're not done. We haven't left our mark to the world yet. This is just a small blip, this 70,000 verified customers. We need to change tens of millions of lives, and this is what me and our team is really focusing on.
Well, again, you're talking about this changing lives. I don't think making wallets or giving access to cryptocurrency trading, which anybody can basically do, is changing somebody's lives. Just a huge statement.
Well, I think it is. I think, for example, if you think of the 70,000 verified customers, what change has, right now, cryptocurrency prices are all-time highs. Can you imagine how many lives were positively impacted?
And also some lives that are also losing money, also negatively impacted. It's vice versa.
Well, yeah, but I think if there's 70,000 customers and right now crypto prices are all-time high, you can argue that mostly the impact has been positive. But obviously, investment has risk. Kind of a secret about that. But if you just hold your US dollars or euros, you're definitely going to lose the inflation what is around.
But also, interactive brokers, let's say, for example, they don't come out and tell we're changing other lives with giving access to cryptocurrencies on their stock exchange.
Well, they are mostly focusing on the stocks indeed, but they are saying the same thing. Interactive brokers is always basically saying that they're changing people's lives for the better because they're giving access to investments.
Basically, everybody's changing lives. I'm selling ice cream, I'm changing lives.
But you are. But it's the difference what you can do in tech world. If you're selling ice cream, you are actually changing their lives. They're going to have a good...
I sell sugar. So
well, let's say sugarless. Let's say vegan sugarless ice cream. You are changing their lives. They're getting some pleasure. But what you can do as a tech company, you can have 50 people in the office, and you can change millions of lives through a mobile application. And I think that's really amazing. And that is something when I go back to the Skype story, what we talked in the beginning. Skype touched hundreds of millions of lives with being a small office basically here in Estonia. So we just want to do the same thing.
Okay. Well, we're doing nothing new. Everybody nowadays is giving crypto access to all the coins, etc., etc. There's tons of brokers. So what's your game to make it successful? What's the difference?
Well, without going to the features of the product, I think the main reasons why we are going to be successful is the following. Right now you're seeing one person, but behind me there's this amazing team of 50 people, but there is also an even bigger team of 7,000 to 8,000 investors who are backing us, who are giving us feedback, criticizing us, and sharing about change all around the world. I think we are a revolution, we're not a startup.
But don't everybody have millions of users who give also feedback, who write to support, etc.?
But we have 7,000 to 8,000 investors, community members who are every day commenting and criticizing us. I think this is much more stronger. They actually have skin in the game. This is really a revolution.
Interactive Brokers has, I think, 50,000 investors, plus minus.
Well, they are already a mature company. We are a startup. We're doing something different. And our results are speaking for themselves. This has worked to this point, and I'm sure it will continue.
Mr. Kristjan Kangro, thank you for coming. This was our first interview via Stockfanatt.com. Don't forget to share it on social media, and see you later. Goodbye.